Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today I have with me Louis DiModugno, and I'm probably butchering your last name. I practiced the first name, but the last name. Managing partner at Data Curiosity and the Bowtie Data Guy. Even his email is the Bowtie Data Guy. So, Louis, first of all, thank you for making time to have this conversation with me today. How's it going?
It's going great, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. And if I'm not mistaken, you are in Hartford, which is where we originally met. Basically, if I remember correctly, I kind of sat down to have a little bit of a meal at Insurtech Hartford in the Great Indian Casino, Mohegan Sun, during Insurtech Hartford, and you were there, and I was like, love the bow tie. So how's the weather in Hartford today on the first day of summer?
It is beautiful. It is sunshiny, some clouds, and just in the low to mid 70s.
Fantastic.
Yep.
And then, if I'm not mistaken, you were also there for Insurtech Insights in New York when the sky was Ghostbusters yellow, and the only thing that was missing was the Great Marshmallow Man, right?
Yeah, I went to the Yankee game that night. That it was at its peak, and they played that game no problem. And then the next night they went ahead and they canceled it because they said that nobody should be breathing this stuff. So I got a full dose of it
Wow.
the first night.
Wow, I thought of going to the Yankees game. I've never done a Yankees game before. And the week before Insurtech Insights, I was staying with some gamer hippie friends in Vermont, and they reminded me that while I do enjoy stadiums, I am a nerd above and beyond anything else. So basically, when I ask myself if I'm spending the next year or most of the next year in Argentina, what is it that I'm really going to miss about New York? And I've never lived in New York, but from Atlanta, Georgia, I can very easily fly into New York whenever I want to, which I do 3 or 4 times a year. So when I asked myself, what am I really going to miss about not being able to fly to New York? The answer was Broadway. So I went to see 3 shows in 3 days instead of going to a Yankees game.
Oh, wow.
And it was a lot of fun. It was so much
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
So Louis, what is Data Curiosity?
I have had the fortune of being a consultant for a number of years, both independent as well as with Big Four providers. And so last August, I decided that I would go out and hang my own shingle again. And so Data Curiosity was born. It is really a organization that's focused on creating and establishing data strategies for companies that essentially don't have a full professional data organization. So, smaller to mid organizations, they still have just as much data as some of the big carriers out there. And they don't have, an army of data scientists. They don't have an army of data engineers. And so they need a place to get started. And so I have had the fortune of starting 2 data organizations from scratch. And so, and also with my change management background in the consulting side, I've had the opportunity to work with some smaller organizations, get them started on a data strategy, create a data roadmap, do some technology evaluation for them to see what they've got in-house and what maybe they would need in order to do data management, data governance, increasing their data quality, bringing their data together, either physically or virtually, and then having it prepared for either their actuary team, their underwriters, their claims team, and utilize tools that are in the no-code, low-code space, so they don't have to be data scientists, but it will help them to prove out hypotheses that they could then maybe move into a service that could use a higher order of data science beyond what maybe they have in-house already. And then if the models are proven out, or if there is some reporting that could help from a decision-making standpoint for the organization, we try to go ahead and get that implemented so that that's available for the leadership.
Okay. So a few things that I think are really important. Number one, you're not only a data guy, you're an actually insurance guy. So we have a tendency in our industry, whether this is accurate or not, to think that if you don't come from insurance, you don't understand our weird world, right?
Yeah.
So I really love the fact that you spent significant amount of time at least a couple of carriers.
Mm-hmm.
So you do get our world, and I think that every listener that is a potential client for you, that is a leader at a carrier, even at the smaller carriers, understand intuitively that insurance is a data business. But it's a really weird data business because it's a data business that is ran largely by really old technology.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you can think of it this way, it actually works as a data funnel. Because when you think about all the hands that the data passes through before it gets to your policy admin system, and then once it's in your policy admin system, then there's really another level of determining what moves on to the data warehouse or to a data environment that could be managed for reporting or for business intelligence. But you start at the policyholder level, and they have all the information, right? And then the agent or broker goes ahead and collects some of the information, and then the carrier goes ahead and books some of the information. And then you get into the data warehouse and you move in some of the information. So you can think of it as, you're starting at a very, very large level, and every single time you go through another barrier or another transition, you're losing data along the way. And so it's very important to really understand what data you have access to, and what is the quality of that data specifically at the origin, and then how are you bringing that through your systems so that you are maintaining its integrity and that you've got a good data set when it comes time to utilize for modeling or reporting.
So for most small and medium carriers, or the ones that you've worked with thus far, that you've consulted for thus far, where do they tend to be in the data journey when they bring you in?
A lot of them are challenged from the standpoint that they have data silos. And I think that, even the large organizations, the large carriers out there still have data silos where, your policy admin and your claim systems maybe don't talk to each other. Or your premium system doesn't talk to your claim system. And so, trying to bring the data together to really understand, lifetime value for a customer, or trying to understand a customer that maybe has multiple products across different offerings from a carrier. These are all really important parts. And the other thing too is that, your policyholders, they don't have a reason to stay with you forever, right? And so the other piece is that policyholders come and go, and then they come again, and then they go again, and then they go. And so, folks who are out there competing on price, folks that are out there that are competing on, new types of products or new offerings that are being brought to the environment. It's really important to know who your customers are, what is your distribution across all your different products, and what is their interaction with you over time. And so if they are with you this month and they weren't with you 2 years ago, and 5 years before that they were with you, it's important to know that information, especially if they've had some significant claims along the way. You really want to understand that risk, and you really want to be able to take advantage of the data that you have on these customers and bring it forward each time they come to your doorstep.
Okay. So once, oh, and you're talking about the different data silos. So does that mean that we need to complete the systems transformation first? That we need to bring everything up to like Guidewire or better before we can do real data work, or are there workarounds that we can use before completely transforming the systems?
Yeah, so I look at it in a twofold aspect of, there needs to be a strategic plan of what are we going to be doing long term, and how are we going to bring together the majority of the data into an environment that we can utilize and that people can access readily for their hypothesis testing. But then, that could be a multi-year journey for especially for a large organization. Um, but what we need to be able to do is we need to be able to prove out value for the data almost immediately. And so, some of the hypotheses that the business users and the business leaders are operating under is, they've got some background, or they've got some ideas around, hey, this is a belief that I think I know, but wouldn't it be great if I knew, if I really knew? And so being able to pull together data to be able to prove out some of these hypotheses is very important. To be able to do segmentation analysis, to be able to do cluster analysis, to be able to look at your risk exposure, across the geography or across the product line is very, very important. And to see that visually, either through, some sort of mapping capability, or some sort of hierarchy, just even supposedly with bar graphs to show what the change is over time, and to show the growth or the cyclical nature of what's happening with some products. It's very important to be able to see that. And so when you've got data in a spreadsheet, it's very hard to see that because, again, you're looking at numbers, and the human eyeball ain't really good at seeing the patterns when it's a number. But when you go ahead and you put it into a graphical representation, it really, starts to pop out as, hey, there's something happening here. Let's go ahead and look to see, why is there a outlier, or why is there this pattern that I'm able to see? And it's these visualization type tools that are out there that are becoming more and more prevalent within these organizations that bring that to life. And it used to be that hey, only the the Power BI experts were able to go ahead and do that, right? Or only the Cognos experts were able to do that, right? But now it's to the point where, like I mentioned earlier, there's these low code, no code capabilities where virtually anybody within the organization could have access to this, and they could essentially bring the data into an environment where they could create like a sandbox, test out some ideas, put it into some visualizations so that they could see what's happening with this data over time. And that's really, to me, the biggest opportunity is the time series of the data, to see how it changes over time. That's where you really start to see those patterns, and you start to see opportunities where people should be asking the question, what's happening here? Can somebody help explain to me why this changed? And again, the data is only the first step, right? It's really trying to understand the data and getting your business professionals to help you to understand that data, to recognize why things changed and what were the influence associated with that.
Okay.
There are some tools out there right now that, I've seen specifically where you can ask the tool through a natural language process, where it's almost like a Google search to say, show me the change in quarter 4 of 2020 to quarter 4 of 2023, and it will immediately not only bring up the two charts to show you side by side, and even overlay them so that you can see the differences, But then it will go, I've seen tools that will go that one step further to do the statistical analysis to understand, what has changed, what's influencing the change, and essentially looking for drivers of those outputs through, all the X's that go into that, into those modeling opportunities. So there's some really neat capabilities that are out there now that are really making it very, very easy for more people to have access to the data, to be able to ask questions of it, almost as a generative AI interaction, where you're asking in a natural language, just like a Google search type effort, and it's being able to bring back information and the underlying drivers of what caused that information.
That sounds amazing, absolutely amazing. Um, are you finding that the smaller carriers know that the options that are available, and they just don't know how to get to the point where they can use them, or are you finding that they don't even that they're behind the curve of what's possible today, even in knowing what's possible today?
So I think part of it is there's a hesitancy of really exploring what are the capabilities out there. I think a lot of organizations are still focused on just moving to the cloud, and quite frankly, that's something that we've been dealing with for almost a good 10 years now, right? Of having these cloud capabilities out there and the progression of our systems out to the cloud, offerings from vendors as software as a service from the cloud. And so, the cloud capability and all that, I'm hopeful that that's accepted now, right? That this is the future and this is what we should be doing. So now, that organizations are moving their systems and their data to the cloud. Now the question is, well, are you moving it to a single cloud, or now do I have multiple clouds that I have to be able to interact with each other, right? And again, these are challenges because the Azure folks, they want you to keep all their data in their cloud. The Google folks, they want you to keep all their data in their cloud. And so it's hard. It's not as easily, the capability of bringing these clouds together is probably not as easy as it could be. Again, primarily because, they're looking for monopolies and ways to take advantage of the opportunities that are being given to that. Those cloud, so once you're into the cloud, and again, some of these smaller companies, they deal with a small policy admin system or a small claim system that's very basic, and they don't have the technology or maybe even a technologist to help sort through what are all the capabilities out there. I mean, Tony, you saw it when we were at the Insurtech Insights at New York. The number of vendors that's out there, it changes literally from month to month as we go to these shows, and the capability is just tremendous. But it's continually changing, and right now there is so much change that's happening through everything that's being spoken about in the AI and machine learning space, and then also predominantly in the generative AI space, which is getting a lot of play right now. But also, I'll tell you, I've spoken with some of my state's politicians because they're concerned for their constituents around privacy and how their data is being used in these areas. And so, again, we are moving very fast with these models and these capabilities, and the government and the regulatory environment, regulatory organizations are moving kind of slow, but they're starting to catch up. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing some of these smaller companies not take the dive, is because they're waiting for, what's going to manage this environment. How is this going to be auditable? How are we going to have, regulatory impact from policies and procedures? And so some companies are willing to take the risk and get out there and start, be first movers in that area. but a lot of the companies that I've been dealing with are really hesitant, primarily because of the privacy and security aspects associated with what's going on.
Yeah, and we deal with tons and tons and tons of personal information, right? But like
Yeah,
unavoidably in our industry,
truly.
and we're heavily regulated, so it's double difficult. Okay, so once you help us come up with a strategy and figure out which tools to use, at that point, do you help us find the right consulting company, like the right, like Deloitte, to implement this, or do you can you help us hire the right team to implement it?
Certainly. And so again, I've got connections with, a lot of the consulting companies that are out there, not only from the Big Four standpoint, but also from a number of the offshore services organizations that are out there, waiting to help some of these carriers as well. And they have great insurance background talent, they've got great data talent, and they've got great data science talent. And so, again, a lot of this is really about identifying, where is the opportunity within the organization. So working with the business leaders around what is it that they want to know, what is it that they think they know, right? And as I said earlier, proving out that the truth is truly the truth. But also looking for, like I say, the nuggets in this hypothesis testing of whether there's a there, because that's really what we're looking for. Is there a glimmer of hope, or is there something that we think we know that, hey, if we knew more about this, this could really be a game changer for us from a product standpoint, from a pricing standpoint, right, from a risk accumulation standpoint. And so it's all these components that kind of come to play in working with these business leaders of finding, what is it that we really want to focus on. And then once you've got that focus, then it's a matter of, all right, well, what data will help to define the outputs associated with what it is that you're looking to understand. And that's where it comes into what I would say is a tactical initiative that's either, using tools like data virtualization, right? Instead of creating a massive warehouse or making a really big investment in a data management system, maybe there's a smaller investment in something like a data virtualization effort where you can virtually bring the data together into a sandbox area and work with it to determine whether there is a there, and then move forward with the opportunities to show, hey, we can do this. Now, if we can prove it out in the sandbox, if we can show, through a proof of concept that this works, now there's the question of how do we go ahead and put this into a ML ops type environment. So now there's automation, there's processes, there's auditability, there's management, there's all these things that need to be put in place from a process standpoint so that everybody knows that we got good data going in, we got good model management, we have good security and privacy around who has access to it, and those people that need to know have that opportunity to use that data to make their decisions.
Okay. How did you realize there was a need for this?
So I got into insurance through process. So I was hired at the Hartford to start their Six Sigma program. I was originally hired from, I had done 12 years active duty in the Air Force, and GE at the time was hiring military officers to come out into GE to start their black belt program in the financial services side. GE had a lot of success on the industrial side, and so I was part of the first cadre into GE on the financial services side. Went through the black belt program, graduated through master black belt program, which is heavily statistics oriented, got me to dust off all my statistics books from college. And again, that got me into really trying to understand, what is it that we could be doing with statistics. Worked very closely with people at SAS at the time who were putting neural nets into their enterprise miner tool at the time, which, again, is precursor to all this generative stuff that's going on. And so got really embedded with that. But then I got asked to start this Six Sigma program at the Hartford. That was my first indoctrination into insurance. And so I had the opportunity as a process guy to really understand insurance at the lowest level, to really understand how, data flowed from the clients, from the policyholders, all the way through the system, and got into our IT systems. And then I fought with our IT organization at the Hartford and said, I need this data in order to do my Six Sigma magic, right? To determine standard deviations and all this stuff. And they were like, well, no one's ever asked for this data before. Why would you need this? And so I worked with them for a number of years and got to the point where I trained myself on SQL so that I was able to go ahead and start to pull the data myself. But it got me really embedded in the insurance space so that I understood not only property and casualty, but I also worked with the Hartford with their life and annuity organizations before they had spun those off. So I had a really good opportunity to see all the different products and all the different customers coming through for those products. The whole idea, though, like I was saying earlier, is that we've now migrated to the cloud. We've now had all these new opportunities and all these new tools that have come forth that are very easy to use for someone who has some knowledge of the data. So like I was saying earlier, the focus on the claims, the underwriting, the actuarial folks, those are the ones who really take advantage of this opportunity because they're dealing with data every single day in what they're doing and the decisions that they're making. This is more of a organized effort of bringing it to them so that they can use it from an accuracy standpoint. They can rely on it. In the past, they didn't know what they were getting, if it was good or not. And so, having a good, high quality, highly accurate data set that they can rely upon, that's a big piece of it. But then giving them these tools that they can manipulate and do some hypothesis testing, that also creates a new area of opportunity for them to really dig down and understand that data.
This is fantastic. Thank you. So we where Insurance Nerds and then the blog and then the podcast Profits and Risk was born was in giving career advice for young insurance professionals, especially carrier side insurance professionals. And so I always do like to, if I have a chance to ask about that. So basically for heavily math-oriented young insurance professionals. So let's say the 24-year-old that's currently working in claims, probably not loving it, but loves math and statistics. We've had episodes before about the actuarial path, but I'd love to hear kind of your advice for that kind of person. Somebody who's in insurance in a very low-level role, and they love math and statistics. If it was your kid, what would you advise them?
Well, I had the fortune when I was at AXA in New York City, their life and annuity organization. Since I was there, that organization has spun off to Equitable. But I have to say that I was the first chief data and analytics officer there. And in trying to identify, who was going to come into this organization as data scientists, it's one thing to go out and hire a PhD who knows nothing about insurance, right? But it's something else to go ahead and hire a young talent who's maybe coming out of an actuarial program from college. They've got a good statistics background. They understand statistics, from a stubby pencil version. And now you give them some tools that they can utilize. And what we did is we actually did a bridge program for the actuarial interns or the actuarial intake organization that was taking in kids directly from college and giving them the opportunity to come over to the data science side and make them junior data scientists by giving them some of these more advanced tools that could do neural net capability, that was looking at customer behavior, that was looking at, in this case, we were looking at life insurance applications. And so to take a life insurance application that was multi-pages, you're talking 20, 25 pages long, and it's collecting all kinds of sensitive healthcare data, and to boil it down to the fact that, we could potentially put together a product that, based on 5 questions, we could go and get to a point where we could be close to delivering a product, delivering a bound contract from a life insurance standpoint. And so that was a huge, huge change in how this company was doing business. And again, it was these young actuaries who were in the middle of all of it, and they could see that all of this information that was being captured wasn't necessarily playing into the outcome of the answer. And when you went ahead and you put all that data together and you finally saw that, hey, a lot of this information that we were capturing didn't contribute to whether we underwrote or not a life insurance policy. Now all of a sudden eyes were opened, and again, everybody was getting excited about what could be done by using these types of models and this data in an appropriate way. Now, mind you, not everything could be underwritten that way, but there was a good 15 to 20% that we could address with these 5 questions, and it was just tremendous to see that amount of work be taken away from the brokers and agents. Right now, they didn't have to capture all that information, and again, our customers also were in a much better space because they didn't even have to go and get the healthcare checkups and all the things that go along with life insurance policies. So it was eye-opening, but it gave our actuaries, these young actuaries, an opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to still go ahead and get my actuarial certifications, right? Because again, they went to school for that, and their parents would probably get really upset at them if they didn't go through with getting all their certifications. But to be able to move towards that data science side of the equation, and to really understand, hey, there's a lot of different data out here that we could get access to that could help us answer some of these risk pool questions, and could help us from a segmentation, could help us from a risk concentration, and really understand some of these areas, could help us from a reinsurance standpoint, right? Where do we have too much of a concentration where we should go off and get reinsurance to go ahead and distribute our risk? All of these things come into play in this area, and it's very opportunistic to be able to utilize not only these young brains that are coming out of school with new ideas, but also giving them access to some of these new tools that maybe they didn't get access to while they were at school. And now, maybe they aren't R or Python programmers, but I could give them access to tools that will write R or Python in the background. And they can just drag and drop what they want to do. And that code is being written for them. So again, very, very interesting times and capabilities. And again, you always want to give that career path, new opportunities and new ways of thinking about things. And so I really do think that the actuarial profession has so much opportunity in front of them with these tools that are becoming more and more available.
Fantastic. This has been super interesting. Thank you so much for your time today. So for the listeners who are thinking that it might make sense to reach out to see if they can bring you on board to do a project for them, what is the best way to get a hold of you? Is it link? I mean, I will include your LinkedIn on the show notes, and I do see that you have your email very easily findable at the very top, the.bowtie.dataguy@datacuriosity.net. So LinkedIn and the email are the best ways to reach out.
Definitely. Yeah. And again, I'd be more than happy to talk to anyone about, what's happening in the AI machine learning space, and more importantly, the generative AI space. The thing I can't emphasize enough from a data guy, data management guy, data governance guy, is the fact that generative AI is coming, and it is going to be in your organization sooner than you think. The question is how well are you ready for it, and more importantly, how much is your or how capable is your data ready for it? Because again, a lot of what we've dealt with over the last 10 plus years is we've been focused on structured data, right? We've been focused on structured databases. And what we're finding is that in this generative space, it's the unstructured area that's really being taken advantage of. And so understanding how to put that data into a graph database, into a vector database, using some of these new technologies, having your data ready for when generative shows up on your doorstep, that's going to be a big piece of the speed to turn this on and to be able to take advantage of it.
And I'm going to take a wild guess that the small and medium carriers are the ones that are least prepared to deal with unstructured data.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense. This has been really fantastic. I look forward to seeing you at some of the conferences in the fall, and we'll definitely keep you in mind as I run into organizations that are having data issues. If that describes you, reach out to Louis, tell them that Tony sent you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you for your time, and it's been very enjoyable.